Did you know that fall is prime planting time here in Texas? Well, welcome to my channel. I'm a Central Texas gardener in Zone 8B, and in today's video, I'm excited to share lots of beautiful fall options for your garden. I hope you guys enjoy it. All right, guys, I'm going to walk y'all over to these blackfoot daisies, and you can see they are sprawling big time. There are actually 3 plants here, or I installed 3 plants. I don't know if they've reseeded. I'm sort of suspicious that they have because they're so much bigger than I expected them to be, but there's 1, 2, 3 plants here. So Blackfoot daisies are generally 6 to 12 inches in height and about 2 foot in spread, and these particular ones are probably twice that in spread. I will say that Blackfoot daisies are a very low maintenance plant, but they do really require well draining soil. These particular Blackfoot daisies are in about 80% rock and 20% soil, and that seems to be a pretty good mix for them. I have not had to supplementally water these, fertilize, or deadhead these, and they are just so prolific with blooms. I will say that we've had a bit of a milder summer in terms of temperature and in terms of rain, and so that's probably helped these along quite a bit. I have another grouping of Blackfoot daisies that are in a mulch bed that aren't quite as big as these. Now, whether that's because they're in more soil or whether that's because they're in a western exposure where these are in a southwest exposure, so these get more sun throughout the day, I'm not entirely sure. So here are my other Blackfoot daisies, and these are pretty much in a mulch bed, and their sun exposure is really along this side, and so when you look at the plant, you can kind of see it's not like there's not really much going on the other side. Some of that may be because they're limited by the plant behind them, but yeah, so these were looking pretty leggy and scraggly about 6 weeks ago, and then also these were looking really leggy and scraggly around that same time frame. And so if you watch previous videos, I went ahead and cut these back down to about 6 inches, and they have made such a comeback. And so you guys can see all those new green shoots on there. These autumn sages are sort of like a woody shrub, but I will tell you that all those woody branches, they're not going to be very dense in foliage and flowers, so sometimes when they start looking like that, hack them back. And there's not many plants that can take a summer prune, right? Because that's a stressful time to prune your plants, but these absolutely can. So in this next segment, I want to highlight several beautiful Texas native and well-adapted plants that really shine in the fall, offering our pollinators a great nectar boost late in the season when they really need it the most. So this is skeleton leaf goldeneye, and this is a native Texas shrub. Gets about 2 to 4 feet in height and spread. It can flower spring through summer, but does most of its flowering probably end of summer into fall. You can see it's got a lot of flower buds, so it's just getting ready to really start showing off. Here are what the flowers look like. And you can see the foliage is kind of real, the leaves are very narrow, hence the name skeleton leaf. And so I have another one of these over here that is not in a great spot, so I'm going to probably move it here in about a week or so to a better spot. This next plant here is a well-adapted plant called Mexican mint marigold. And I believe I've got 2 plants here. I think I planted initially 3, but 1 didn't make it. And this is really kind of got a bit of an open canopy because I think it's more in a partial sun setting, and these really do prefer a full sun setting, and so it's kind of, it's less compact because of that. But these will not flower for the most part. Sometimes you'll get a few blooms in the spring, but they do all their flowering in the fall. And they're these beautiful yellow flowers. I haven't seen a lot of buds, but I think I've got one here. And so I think it's just a matter of a few days before this is covered. Now, these get about 2 to 3 feet in height and spread, and the leaves of this particular plant are edible, and used like you would use tarragon. And I'm not a big tarragon user, but you can use this in your cooking as well. This is a fragrant mist flower or white mist flower. And I don't know if you can see all of the buds on these, but it is just getting ready to flower out. I had hoped it would flower out by the time I made this video, but it hasn't yet. I'll be sure to share what it looks like when it finally does. I do have 3 plants total, one here, and then I've got another one over there. And these can get about 2 to 6 feet in height and spread. And everyone that I've talked to that has these, they seem like they get more along the 6 feet. And so just something to keep in mind, they can get pretty big. But they are absolutely lovely. And I'm so excited to see these do their thing here in the next few weeks. This is fall aster, and this is a beautiful Texas native mum alternative. They typically stay under 3 feet in height. They're very drought tolerant and love a full sun location. I have several plants here that have kind of reseeded themselves, and a lot of it recently had a beautiful flush of flowers, and a lot of those flower heads have gone to seed, and it'll put on continuous flushes like that throughout the fall and into early winter. So fall is also a wonderful time to sow your wildflower seeds. And if you look behind me here, all these little rosettes, these are all bluebonnets, and they reseeded themselves after I had those bloom in the spring. Now, when you sow wildflower seeds, generally you need a full sun location, and you need to put them on native bare soil. And you want to tamp them down. You don't want to bury them. And then just gently water them in. You might need to kind of water them every few days unless you have a rain. And so one of my favorite places to buy our native wildflower seeds is Native American Seed. I'll be sure to link that in the description box. I also have a short on how to sow bluebonnet seeds. If you're interested, I'll also put that in the description box. The cooler temps of fall are a perfect time to transplant plants. The cooler temps mean less stress on the plant in general as it's being moved. Now, when you transplant your plant and you're digging it out, you want to dig around the entire circumference of the plant, just past its drip line or the very edge of where the foliage comes out. And so you want to dig around the entire circumference of the plant, and you want to kind of angle your shovel, not into the root ball, but kind of like you're almost getting under the root ball. That's the goal. You might get a little bit of roots, but it's okay. Now the shovel you see me using has a very narrow profile and serrated edges. It's probably one of my favorite garden tools. It's called a root slayer shovel, and it really does make digging into my clay and caliche soil a little bit easier, and so versus like a wide profile shovel. So I'll make sure I link that in the description box as well. Once you have dug out the entire root ball, you want to then dig your new hole that you're going to put the plant in. And essentially that new hole should be twice the width of the root ball that you just pulled out of the ground. And then you place your plant in that hole, and you backfill it to include any soil amendments that you think you might need. This is sometimes where I add a little expanded shale and things like that. And then you just tamp down that soil. Make sure you water it in well. Sometimes that soil will settle and you got to add more. When you put your mulch around the plant, you don't want it to touch the stem of the plant. You just kind of want it more along the root zone of the plant. So here's some stuff I've already transplanted, and this is Katie's dwarf Ruellia. It's a dwarf variety of Mexican petunia, and so I mean they are prolific reseeders. You will get so many free plants from this, so don't buy a bunch, because just give it a season. But here's what that looks like, and this area is kind of weedy, and so I thought, well, I'll just take all those volunteers and put them along here. So I'm hoping this whole area just kind of fills with this Katie's dwarf Ruellia. These tend to get about 8 to 12 inches in spread, and so they're great for tucking into small crevices and spaces where you may not be able to get another plant. Now, the other thing I've transplanted was this pineapple guava. And this pineapple guava is actually an evergreen, not native, but well-adapted plant. And I heard it is very deer resistant. So if you're kind of struggling with deer eating your stuff, you might consider this. Now, this is a tall shrub to small tree, so it can get quite tall, about 15 feet in height and spread. Though, you know, like a lot of these, you can kind of prune them to where you want them to be. The other thing I transplanted was a couple of sunshine ligustrum here. And so this guy, this is where the pineapple guava was. And then this sunshine ligustrum was kind of right here. And these indigo spire salvia, they got really big. I really underestimated how big they were going to get. And these are easily 5 feet across. And so I had these sunshine ligustrum kind of a little bit behind them, but they were getting swallowed up like this one is right here. Okay, so I'm going to have to also move this guy. But so I went ahead and transplanted that over there. You can kind of see the more mature sunshine ligustrum along that edge. So sometimes you transplant directly into the ground, but sometimes you'll want to transplant into a pot because you want to gift your plants to friends, or maybe you have a garden bed that's not ready to receive the plant yet. And so I wanted to share what I do or how I do that. And so I have several plants that give me lots of volunteers. Here I have several American beauty berries. And over here I have Lindheimer senna, which has actually started to flower. And then I have that golden ball lead tree that germinated in my brush pile, and I was so excited about that, y'all. And this is going to my mom. So here's your plant, Mom. Love you. And so with when I transplant into a pot, generally I'm picking a smaller plant, and so like a seedling. And I water the seedling first before I dig it out. Then I dig it out, and then I put it in the pot. You want to make sure that you've got well-draining potting material. I usually just use the native soil and throw some expanded shale in there just so that soil doesn't compact in on itself, preventing the flow of oxygen. It's not a huge deal if they're not going to be in there long, but if you're going to have them in there for weeks to months, it might be a good idea to make sure you're using like a potting soil or something like that. And then the other thing I would say is they're going to be needing lots and lots of water. So I also will bottom water them. And so that's why I like these trays. I will put about 1 inch of water at the bottom of these, making sure that that's kind of there every day for maybe about 3 to 7 days. And then once they start perking up on their own, they look perky, I'll kind of back off on that, and then I'll just kind of watch them. So like this guy here, he looks a little wilted, probably needs a little bit more water, versus this guy here looks really okay. And so, you know, these bigger transplants just take getting moved a lot harder than the smaller ones do. So that is how I water them. And the other purpose of watering them that way is it pulls those roots down. So it trains those roots to go down and hopefully not start doing a girdling thing. And so I like bottom watering for that purpose as well. And so that's how I transplant into pots. So another great thing to plant in Texas in the fall are trees. And again, that's because of the cooler temperatures, but essentially you've got fall, winter, and even the beginning of spring for that root system to get established before that scorching summer. Versus if you were to plant the tree in the spring, you've maybe got a month or two for that root system to really get established before it has to deal with the stress of summer. So for that reason, Texas celebrates its Arbor Day the first Friday of November. In the rest of the United States, they celebrate it in April. So I wanted to share some of my favorite Texas trees with you. Now, if you are in the market for a new tree and you're in the Central Texas region, I do have a video that discusses some excellent options for you. I shot this video earlier in the year with a master arborist who actually services trees in the Central Texas area. And in the video, he shares his top 10 low maintenance tree picks, and they go from everything from a shade to an ornamental to a columnar variety. So lots of really good options if you're not sure what to pick. So be sure to check that out in the description box below. So this here is a Texas redbud, and it is a deciduous tree that gets more ornamental height between 15 and 25 feet. Gets quite a spread. It's kind of more of an open canopy type tree. And what most redbuds are known for, and this one is no different, is the beautiful pink to purple flower display that they put on in the spring for about 2 to 3 weeks. And so if you're looking for an ornamental tree and you love something that flowers in the spring, check this one out. So this is the golden ball lead tree, and so you guys know I talk about it all the time. This is a beautiful Texas native. I think it's specifically native to the Edwards Plateau region in Texas, but it is a very drought tolerant tree, and it is deciduous, so you'll lose that winter interest, but what it does in the rest of the year, it just makes up for it. But it has these beautiful, can you guys see those flowers, those yellow flowers? And they're just so, different than anything else you see. They're really just a fun tree to have, and the pollinators really enjoy them as well. And these are more of an ornamental size, getting about 15 to 20 feet. And so very drought tolerant, does need good draining soil. So you may have to amend your soil if you've got heavy clay soil. All right, so this next tree is actually a really tall shrub, but can reach ornamental tree heights, and it's Texas kidneywood. And Texas kidneywood is a Texas native shrub that is deciduous and can reach heights as tall as 10 to 15 feet, but usually shorter. You can see the one behind me here. I've got 2 of these. They do flower these sort of elongated, almost panicle-like blooms that smell like honey. They're absolutely lovely. And apparently once upon a time, people used the kidneywood for kidney or bladder ailments. Now, whether or not it was effective for that, I couldn't tell you. But the wood of this is also used to make certain kind of dyes. So behind me here is a semi-dwarf variety of crepe myrtle, and this is called a catawba, and I have 2 of these in my landscape. And this season is the first season I've noticed that they've struggled with something called crepe myrtle bark scale. And crepe myrtle bark scale is a scale insect that forms along the branches or the stems of the crepe myrtle tree. It's typically not going to kill the tree, but it will cause some aesthetic damage. Now, it's crepe myrtle bark scale. It looks pretty obvious, but you can scrape at it, and if you see a bunch of pink stuff, that's the endolymph of the scale insect, and so that's usually telltale. So what I've done so far is mostly contact measures. I've used a isopropyl alcohol wipe and just kind of wiped it away. You can do even just soapy water. That's also an option. To be honest with you, it's not necessarily eradicated the scale, but what I have noticed is that scale has drawn a lot of beneficial insects, primarily the twice-stabbed lady beetle, which is a voracious predator of the scale insect. And so I have decided that I might just tolerate the scale because it has drawn beneficial insects to my garden. So it might be a bit of an aesthetic sacrifice on these crepe myrtles if I can keep these twice-stabbed lady beetles here, which will fight off pests just naturally. So if you're looking to treat your crepe myrtle bark scale more aggressively because perhaps the infestation is very heavy, there are broad-spectrum insecticides that you can use. However, you got to keep in mind that those broad spectrum insecticides not only kill the scale insect, but they will also kill the any beneficial insects as well as pollinators that come to visit the flower of the tree. And so if you're going to use something like that, you want to make sure you use the right product the right way. And so I will make sure that I link an article from Texas A&M where they discuss their recommendations for treating crepe myrtle bark scale and how to do it. The one that I am aware of is imidacloprid, which is a soil drench that you apply in early spring. It is taken up by the roots of the tree and it's sort of exuded throughout the tree. So again, it's going to kill not only the scale insect, but probably beneficial insects and any pollinators. So again, for something that doesn't necessarily kill your tree, it just maybe causes some aesthetic damage, you might kind of weigh, do I really need to do this? I'm just kind of letting my crepe myrtle sort of be the sacrificial tree right now, because I have all these twice stabbed lady beetles which are helping me with all sorts of problems, and so I'm just going to leave it alone. So the other thing I would plant in fall are ornamental grasses. And ornamental grasses are a great way to offer some architectural contrast in terms of your landscape foliage. So a lot of times you may have a landscape bed that's full of a lot of shrubby-like material, and it looks kind of meh. And so if you need a little punch, add something like an ornamental grass. It might be just what you need. This one here is pink Gulf Moly, and it is striking in the fall. It's not started to do its bloom or inflorescence yet, but it has these beautiful pink inflorescence, and it looks like a giant pink cloud in the fall, and absolutely lovely. So consider this one. So that pink Gulf Moly gets about 3 by 3 feet in height and spread, and so if you're looking for something a bit shorter, maybe for the border of your landscape, or just something maybe under 2 feet, I wanted to share a couple of options with you. The first one is Mexican feathergrass, and that's what I've got here. And it stays under 2 feet. It is not native, but well adapted, but it is a very aggressive spreader, so buyer beware. I have a beautiful sweep of this in my front landscape bed, and I really do love it, but you know how you have a little bit of plant regret? I think I kind of do. I wish I would have used blue grama here. And so I wanted to introduce that to you. This is a very short bunch grass that is a heat-loving grass and needs very little water, and would be a great alternative to this Mexican feathergrass. All right, guys, I have not done one of these garden helper segments in a little while, but today I wanted to share one of my favorite garden tools with you, and that is my pair of FELCO pruners. And as a gardener, I've owned a lot of pruners. I usually would just buy something available like in a big box store, and usually within a few months they'd give out, they'd get stuck, or they'd start crushing the plant material, not giving me a good cut, or that like little locking thing starts getting loose and you can't tighten it. And so that has not been the case with these. FELCO is a company that has been around since the 1940s. Their pruners are made of a Swiss steel, and their handles are a forged aluminum. Every part of this pair of pruners is repairable. And so yes, they're a bit of an investment piece, but you can keep these for decades. The other thing I would say is that the handle feels very good in my hand. It's like ergonomic. And so I really love using these. And there's a lot of different models. I have the FELCO Model 2, and this seems to be a good place to start for the average gardener. I feel like it fits most hand sizes and does most small garden tasks. I mean, I will cut shrubs, flowers, small branches without any problem with these. And so, but you can get on their website and get into some details. You can size your hand, you can let them know what you're trying to accomplish in terms of garden tasks, and they will give you a model number that might be a better fit for you. But again, the FELCO 2s are a pretty great place to start. So if you have a pair of FELCOs, tell us, if I missed something about it, tell us why you love your FELCOs. All right, guys, I hope you feel empowered to add just the right plant to your fall landscape. Be sure to check out those videos in the description box for more information. And until the next one, y'all take care.